Hey, this is Wes Fryer. Today is October the 1st, 2023, and I'm here in Nashville, Tennessee at the Hows Manor house. And I'd like to just give you a small tour of part of this house. I am far from an expert on this national historic landmark. But one of the things that I've been thinking about, this is the oldest home I've ever spent the night in. We've just had a wonderful wedding for our son and his wife, having family from here in Tennessee on Grace's side and our family. This home was built in 1830, and I read the nomination form, I guess, from 1984 when the former owner, a doctor who owned it for 40 years, got it on the National Register as a historic landmark. And then I had a chance to visit with the current owner and just hear all kinds of stories. And this highway you can hear behind me I think it's Highway 71. This, he said, was the first highway in the state of Tennessee. I think it goes from like Memphis to Bristol. I'm going to probably get a whole bunch of things wrong with this, but I also want to draw out some of the things that this has made me think about in terms of property and the Civil War and slaveholding. And so anyway, we've got to leave. We got to go have brunch and get on the road and drive back to North Carolina. So this home, the Hows Manor home, was built in 1830. The original owner was a veteran of the Revolutionary War, and the current owner has a theory that there were soldiers that were not doing as well in civilized society in the East, and one of the things that the United States government did was give land grants to different soldiers, and so he and his, I think, first cousin both received 500 acres right here in Nashville, in what is now Nashville, Tennessee. So they built this home at the time of his death, right before the Civil War started. It was like 1857, 1859. The Civil War started in 1860. He and his first cousin were the largest landowners in this entire county. I think this is Davidson County, and they owned like 13,000 acres. And so this home, when the Civil War came to Nashville in 1862, Union forces took over Nashville and they seized this home. And so Union officers were here. And so we're going to go in. There's actually blood on the floor, which could have been from a cockfight, but the legend is that there was a stonemason who was a spy for the Confederacy, and Union soldiers shot him in the home. And so the original floorboards are in the home, and you can see the stains of blood that is there right by the fireplace. This is currently an Airbnb. It also rents out long-term. Anyway, let's go inside and kind of take a look. So, and I want to also talk about stairwells and where the house slave quarters were, and then I'm going to go back to the cemetery. So you can see here, it is on the historic register. One of the things that's really cool about I guess you have to see it from the inside, this actual door handle, and it has some engraving in it. Just so much is original to the home. Okay, so this is the stairway. This was an open area where actually dogs were able to run. It was kind of a security thing. And then here is the main living area. There's a photograph here of what this looked like, and you can see a stairwell there on the left, but that stairwell is now gone, and you can see the base of where it was. And this stairwell that was here was for the house slaves, and the house slaves lived here, and they had their own stairwell that they could go up and down. So this spot right here that I was mentioning, those are the blood stains of perhaps the Confederate spy that was shot by the Union soldiers, or maybe it was something else. But so much history here. The doctor who owned this for 40 years before the current owner bought it in 2018 was really into horses and horse racing. There's a steeplechase horse race that takes place, and so there's a lot of horses and horse memorabilia here. When I saw this, I immediately thought, we're in the South. Okay, these are going to be Confederates. But no, this is General Grant, commanding general of the Union forces at the conclusion of the Civil War. This is old Hickory, who I think is Andrew Jackson, who was the president that took over when Abraham Lincoln was assassinated at the conclusion, right after I think the Civil War ended. This is an amazing letter. It's a copy, but he wrote it from the executive mansion on November 21st, 1864, to a woman who had lost 5 of her sons in the Union Army in the Civil War. So the home has just been beautifully restored. This area is all redone and updated. This wasn't part of the original house, but what I'm going to do here, so this is the porch, and there's the what was the horse stables that are there. And what we're going to do now is we're going to walk around to the cemetery to see this. And I think that families, having cemeteries and plots right next to the home certainly shows a time where the ties to the land were so much stronger. And I came out here several times. We got to stay here for 2 nights. The family was here for 3 nights. And, coming over here and seeing these stones, seeing the gravestones, the man, and I don't have everyone's name, so I will include in the links down here in the description of this video a link to the original National Park Service or National Historic Register. It is part of the Park Service, application that gives a lot more facts about this place. But these are the family members, and you can see small gravestones here that were for infants. The man who died just prior to the Civil War, and he and his first cousin owned the 13,000 acres, I think with his wife had 12 children. He is buried here. His mother, who continued to live here, is buried here. And of course, with a farm that combined had over 13,000 acres, there were a lot of slaves here. In fact, the home itself was built with the help and assistance of slaves. But slaves were not buried in the white cemetery with the white grave, with the gravestones. And some of these are really hard to read, or maybe even impossible to read. This would be a wonderful project for someone like the local historical society, to work on helping to renovate and preserve these gravestones. But here's what I think is fascinating. We have a slave cemetery right across the street from our school in Charlotte. It's across from Sardis Presbyterian Church. This part of America, in terms of white settlement, Tennessee became a state in the late 1700s, and originally North Carolina extended all the way to the Mississippi, and I think it was in the 1790s that Tennessee became a state. In those days, again, people were burying their family members in graveyards like this. Landowners, large, wealthy landowning families were. There were some slaves that were more dear to the family, and the belief is that these were house slaves. And so when we look over here over the fence next to the cemetery wall, okay, right here, you can see several gravestones, and these are outside the walls of the family graveyard where the family is buried. These were beloved slaves and most likely house slaves. And so it's just, to me, both important and fascinating to have these tangible, physical reminders of slavery, of the relationships and the complex web of relationships that existed between whites and African Americans for hundreds of years, prior to the Civil War, following the Civil War. There have to be slave cemeteries around here, and maybe some of them are known. In Charlotte, we have some of them that are marked, some of them that have only recently been marked, some that have been discovered, and I'm sure there's other plots like this where you have the family plot, and then there are some gravestones for slaves. And I think it's just so important that we intersect with history and face the history that we have, and that we seek to understand it, and that we seek to not only understand it and know it, but to do better and to figure out ways that we can heal wounds and heal our culture. White supremacy and whiteness continues to be an incredibly harmful and destructive force in our society that many people, myself included, really haven't studied and known a whole lot about. We're in a class right now through our church. We're called Confronting Whiteness, and I'm going to reflect more about that later. But anyway, it was a wonderful weekend. This is a wonderful place. This is a beautiful place. It was a beautiful, beautiful place to have a wedding. I'll walk over here, and I've got to wrap up and show just this pasture where we actually had the wedding ceremony. So it was actually down here at the end of this pasture by that oak tree. Just absolutely beautiful. So thankful for the chance to be here, but also definitely thinking a lot about history and about our current times and the importance that we have, again, to not only seek to understand and to talk about and to understand our place in history, but to find ways that we can heal our culture. And I think as we intersect with our own history and the histories of our communities, there's a lot of importance in remembering that history and seeking to understand it, and then seeking to find healing in many ways that we need and that our society and our culture needs. Thanks.